Cowboys Nation, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now, because what just happened in the last few hours changes everything for this franchise. And honestly, I'm still processing it myself. But before we dive into this madness, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because when news like this drops, we're breaking it down immediately and you're not going to want to miss what comes next. Max Crosby is officially a Baltimore Raven. Let that sink in for a second. The guy we've been talking about for weeks, the edge rusher that every Cowboys fan was dreaming about, the player that could have transformed this defense overnight, he's gone, and he's heading to a conference rival that Dallas absolutely needs to beat if they want any shot at the Super Bowl. The Ravens swooped in and did something they almost never do in their entire franchise history. They traded away multiple first-round picks for a single player, and that tells you everything you need to know about how valuable Max Crosby truly is. Baltimore gave up pick number 14 this year, plus another first-rounder next year, 2 premium selections for one man, and the crazy part is the Cowboys were right there in the thick of it but couldn't close the deal. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why didn't Dallas just pull the trigger? Why didn't Jerry Jones open up that checkbook of draft capital and bring this generational pass rusher home? And I'm going to break all of that down for you, because there's a lot more to this story than what you're seeing on the surface, and some of it might actually surprise you. Reports are emerging that Dallas was willing to offer a first-round pick plus a second-round selection, which on paper sounds pretty solid, right? But here's the thing. Pretty solid doesn't win bidding wars for elite pass rushers in their prime who are changing the trajectory of franchises. The Raiders wanted 2 first-round picks, and they got exactly that from Baltimore, who stepped up when it mattered most. Some league insiders are saying the Cowboys could have theoretically offered picks 12 and 20 from this year's draft to get this deal done, and if they had made that move, Max Crosby would be wearing a star on his helmet right now instead of putting on purple and black, but they didn't pull that trigger, and now we're left wondering what if, which is the most frustrating phrase in all of sports. Here's where it gets complicated, though, and I want you to understand the full picture here, because this isn't as simple as Jerry being cheap or the front office fumbling another opportunity out of incompetence. When Dallas made that blockbuster trade for Quinnen Williams earlier this offseason, they committed one of their first-round picks in that deal, and the way NFL compensation rules work, that created some genuine restrictions on what they could legally offer in a second major trade involving first-round selections. League rules essentially prevented them from just throwing both first at the Raiders, even if they desperately wanted to, or at least made it extremely complicated to structure in a way that worked for everyone involved. Now, could they have found a workaround if they really pushed hard enough and got creative? Probably. Teams find ways around these things all the time when they want something badly enough. Did they explore every possible avenue and leave absolutely no stone unturned? That's the question I keep asking myself, and honestly, I'm not sure I like the answer. One report suggested that the Cowboys genuinely felt like they were close, that they were in the final running for Crosby and could taste the victory, and then Baltimore came in with that knockout offer out of nowhere and sealed the deal before Dallas could counterpunch. So the Cowboys finished second place in the Max Crosby sweepstakes. And you know what second place gets you in the NFL? Absolutely nothing. There's no participation trophy. There's no award for almost getting the guy. There's no consolation prize for coming up just short on a franchise-altering move. You either make it happen or you don't, and the Cowboys didn't make it happen. But here's what nobody is talking about, and this is the part that actually gives me some hope, if I'm being completely honest with you tonight. The fact that Dallas was even in this conversation at all, the fact that they were seriously pursuing one of the best edge rushers in professional football with real assets and real intent, that represents a fundamental shift in how this organization is operating, and I think that matters more than people realize. For years, and I mean years, we've watched the Cowboys pinch pennies and play it frustratingly safe while other franchises went out and made aggressive blockbuster moves to improve their rosters and chase championships. This time, Dallas was actually at the table with the big boys. They were making real offers with real draft capital. They were trying to land a difference maker who could change everything. Now, trying isn't enough, and I understand that completely. And if the end result of this entire offseason is a bunch of near misses and moral victories, I'm going to absolutely lose my mind right along with every single one of you. But the intent was there, the willingness to be aggressive was there in a way we haven't seen from this front office in a very long time. And that aggression has to translate into actual roster moves starting immediately, because Monday is coming fast. So what happens now for your Dallas Cowboys? That's the million-dollar question, and I genuinely believe the answer is going to define the entire season before a single snap is even played. Free agency officially opens on Monday, and there are several premium edge rushers still available who could theoretically fill the void that Max Crosby would have filled if Dallas had landed him. The biggest name on everyone's radar right now is Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals, and if you've watched this guy play, you know exactly why he's generating so much buzz. This man has been one of the most productive and consistent pass rushers in the entire league over the past few seasons, racking up sacks and pressures at an elite rate, and he's about to hit the open market where teams can throw money at him. One insider just reported that Dallas is expected to explore Hendrickson as an option moving forward, which is exactly what I want to hear from this front office after missing on Crosby. But let me be very clear about something. Exploring isn't signing. Kicking the tires isn't closing the deal. Here's the problem that Dallas is going to run into, though, and it's a significant one. Every single team that just missed out on Crosby is going to pivot directly to Hendrickson the moment free agency opens. Think about it. The Bears wanted Crosby badly and have major needs on the edge. The Buccaneers have been looking for pass rush help for years now. The Jaguars were reportedly trying to get in the mix somehow, even without first-round picks, which was bizarre, but shows how desperate teams are for this type of player. The Rams were apparently poking around the edges of the Crosby market. All of these franchises, and probably several others we don't even know about, are going to be calling Hendrickson's agent the absolute moment that negotiating window cracks open, and that means the price is going to skyrocket way beyond what anyone initially projected. If Dallas wants to land Hendrickson, they're going to have to pay top of the market money, and this is where we find out if the front office is truly committed to winning a championship or if they're just going to dip their toes in the water, make some lowball offers, and then walk away disappointed when things get too expensive for their liking. I'll be completely straight with you here because I respect this community too much to sugarcoat things. If the Cowboys come out of free agency with a bunch of bargain bin signings and discount deals while every other legitimate contender is making splash moves and improving their rosters, I don't know how I'm going to react on camera, but it definitely won't be pretty, and I definitely won't be holding back my frustrations. This roster needs premium talent at premium positions. You simply cannot replace a Max Crosby caliber player with a mid-tier veteran on a minimum contract and expect everything to work out. That's not how championship football teams are constructed, and anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to themselves and lying to you. There are other names to watch beyond Hendrickson, too, and I want to make sure you're completely up to speed on all of the options available because knowledge is power for us fans who are anxiously waiting to see what moves get made. Jalen Phillips is another talented edge rusher who could potentially be available depending on how his market develops over the coming days. The guy has shown flashes of being a dominant pass rusher when healthy and might represent good value if the price is right. Khalil Mack, the future Hall of Famer, might be looking for a new home after what he's accomplished in his career and could bring veteran leadership along with production. Malcolm Kunsey, who was actually Crosby's teammate in Las Vegas and knows exactly how to play opposite a dominant pass rusher, could be a sneaky good pickup if you're looking for someone who understands that role intimately. Draymond Jones is leaving Baltimore after putting together some solid, productive seasons, and he's probably not going to break the bank in terms of contract demands. Is Jones a star? No, absolutely not. Let's be realistic about that. But he's a legitimate contributor who can help a defense get better, and sometimes those types of signings are what push you over the top. The point is, there are real options out there on the market for Dallas to pursue. The question that keeps me up at night is whether the Cowboys are going to pursue them with genuine urgency and real financial commitment, or just kick the tires on everyone, make some conservative offers, and hope something magically falls into their lap without them having to actually outbid anyone. And let me talk about the bigger picture here because I think it's critically important to zoom out and understand what this Crosby miss means for the franchise trajectory over the next few years. The Cowboys have been stuck in this incredibly frustrating middle ground for what feels like forever now. Good enough to make the playoffs most seasons and generate some excitement among the fan base, not good enough to actually win anything meaningful or advance deep once they get there. The NFC Championship game feels like a distant, impossible dream at this point. The Super Bowl might as well be on another planet in a different solar system for how realistic it seems. To break through that ceiling and join the truly elite teams in this league, you absolutely need elite players at premium positions, and edge rusher is about as premium as it gets in modern football. Crosby was that type of player, a true game wrecker. He was the caliber of defensive end who could single-handedly destroy an opposing offense's game plan, who could pressure quarterbacks into bad decisions and costly mistakes, who could strip the ball at the most crucial moments and create turnovers that flip momentum entirely. And now he's going to be doing all of that spectacular stuff for the Baltimore Ravens while the Cowboys frantically try to figure out their plan B and hope it's good enough. Here's a question I want you to really think about, and I genuinely want your honest answer in the comments because I value this community's perspective. If you knew for certain going in that the price was going to be picks 12 and 20, both first-round selections in this year's draft, would you have done it? Would you have pulled the trigger and given up those 2 premium picks for Max Crosby, knowing that you're sacrificing 2 chances at young, cheap talent with years of control for one proven superstar who's going to cost a fortune in salary too? I'm genuinely conflicted on this one, and I've been going back and forth in my head for hours now. Part of me absolutely loves the draft. I love the excitement and anticipation of seeing new players come in wearing the star for the first time, developing them through the system, watching them grow into homegrown stars who bleed silver and blue. There's something genuinely special about that process, something you just don't get from trades and free agency signings, no matter how talented the player is. But the other part of me knows that draft picks are essentially educated gambles with no guaranteed outcome. First-round picks bust constantly in this league, way more often than people want to admit. You could take 2 guys at picks 12 and 20 and neither of them pans out, neither becomes a legitimate starter, and suddenly you've wasted 2 premium selections while Max Crosby is out there terrorizing quarterbacks for another team for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, Crosby is a guaranteed commodity, a known quantity. You know exactly what you're getting when you trade for him because you've seen years of tape and production. He's been one of the best defensive players in professional football for several seasons running. That kind of certainty has real value, especially for a team that's running out of time with its current window. Think about it seriously. Dak Prescott isn't getting any younger, and the clock is ticking on his prime. CeeDee Lamb is right in the middle of his best years right now. Micah Parsons is a generational defensive talent, but he desperately needs help around him to maximize what he can do. The window for this core group is open, but it's not going to stay open forever. Windows never do, and every year you waste is a year closer to having to rebuild everything from scratch again. So maybe you do make the aggressive move when it's available. Maybe you do mortgage some of the future to capitalize on the present while your best players are still in their primes. I don't know. I genuinely don't know what the right answer is, and I've been thinking about it constantly, but I do know that the Cowboys had a real legitimate chance to add an elite player who would have transformed this defense overnight, and they came up short in the end, and that stings regardless of what the reasoning was behind the scenes. Now let's talk about what this miss means for the locker room dynamic, because that's an angle I don't think enough analysts and commentators are properly considering. Micah Parsons has been extremely vocal about wanting help on that defensive line. He's been essentially carrying the entire pass rush on his back for years now, and while he's absolutely incredible at what he does, asking one guy to generate all of your pressure against elite offensive lines with all-pro tackles is fundamentally a losing strategy. Teams can double team him every single play. They can chip him with tight ends and running backs. They can slide protection his direction and take away his best moves. And when that happens, when offenses commit all those resources to stopping one player, your pass rush basically disappears and quarterbacks have all day to throw. Adding someone like Crosby would have completely transformed the entire defensive scheme because now you have 2 guys that offenses absolutely have to account for on every single snap. You can't double both of them. It's physically impossible. You have to pick your poison and live with the consequences, and when one of those elite rushers gets a free clean rush at the quarterback because the offense guessed wrong on who to help, very bad things happen for the opposing team. Instead of that nightmare scenario for opposing offenses, the Cowboys are going to head into next season without that dynamic pairing, and Parsons is probably going to be stuck dealing with the exact same double teams and extra attention he's been seeing for years. Is that fair to him? Is that setting your best defensive player up for success or failure? I genuinely worry about burnout. I worry about the cumulative effect of asking too much of your best player year after year because you didn't surround him with enough complementary talent. These are the types of things that keep me up at night when I really think deeply about this team and its direction. The coaching staff has to be feeling tremendous pressure too right now. Mike McCarthy, assuming he's even back next season, which is its own whole complicated situation we should probably discuss another time, absolutely needs this defense to perform at a high level if he wants to keep his job. The offense has weapons, legitimate playmakers who can score points. Dak can still perform at an elite level when he's healthy and protected in the pocket. But if the defense can't get stops in crucial moments, if they can't consistently pressure opposing quarterbacks and create the turnovers that flip field position and momentum, it's going to be another frustrating season of close losses and agonizing playoff disappointments that crush our souls. Every move the front office makes from here on out is going to be heavily scrutinized by fans, media, and everyone inside the building. And honestly, that scrutiny is completely justified given the circumstances. You missed on Crosby when he was available. Fine, it happened. We can't change it now. But now you need to show us what plan B looks like, and it better be convincing. Show us that you have a coherent vision for how this defense is going to generate consistent pressure without Crosby. Show us that you're not just going to roll out the same fundamentally flawed roster and somehow hope for different results through sheer optimism, because hope is not a strategy in the NFL. Hope doesn't stop elite quarterbacks from picking apart your secondary, and Cowboys fans have been hoping for something special for a very long time now, with precious little to show for all that emotional investment. Let me give you my completely honest take on what I think needs to happen over the next week for me to feel genuinely good about this offseason and excited for the upcoming season. First and most importantly, they absolutely need to sign a legitimate edge rusher who can start and make an impact immediately, not a rotational piece who plays 20 snaps a game, not a depth guy whose insurance against injuries, a genuine bona fide starter who can consistently pressure the quarterback and make offensive coordinators game plan around him. Whether that's Hendrickson or another premier name on the market, this move has to happen, and it has to be a real commitment. Second, they desperately need to address the linebacker position because that's been a glaring weak spot for way too long now, and everyone in the league knows it. Third, they need to figure out what the concrete plan is at offensive line because protection for Dak has to be a major priority if you want your expensive franchise quarterback to stay healthy and perform at his best. If they can legitimately check those boxes and come out of free agency with real difference makers at key positions, then I'll feel like this team is genuinely serious about competing for a championship. If they don't, if Monday comes and goes and the following week unfolds and we're sitting here looking at a collection of underwhelming bargain signings, then I think we all need to have an honest, uncomfortable conversation about what this franchise's real priorities actually are and whether they align with what we as fans want and deserve. I don't want to be a doomer about this team. That's not who I am, and that's not what this channel is about. I love the Dallas Cowboys. I've loved this team my entire life through all the ups and downs and heartbreaks, but love doesn't mean blind, unconditional loyalty where you accept everything the organization does without question. Real love means expecting the best and holding people accountable when they fall short of those expectations. Right now, they fell short on Crosby. And that's just an objective fact we have to acknowledge. The only way to make up for that miss is to go incredibly hard in every other area of roster improvement and prove that the Crosby situation was an anomaly rather than a pattern of coming up short when it matters most. I'm going to be watching free agency like an absolute hawk starting Monday morning, and you better believe I'll be breaking down every single Cowboys move as it happens in real time. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, seriously, now is the time to hit that button because this is genuinely the most important week of the entire offseason, and you're going to want real-time analysis and reactions from someone who actually knows this team inside and out and cares as deeply as you do. We're going to be covering every signing, every trade, every rumor, every report, all of it, because that's what Cowboys fans deserve from their coverage. So here's where I ultimately land on this whole complicated situation. Missing out on Max Crosby hurts, it really does, and there's no way to sugarcoat that pain. The Cowboys had a legitimate chance to add a truly transformational player to this roster, and they came up short in the bidding war because they weren't willing or able to match what Baltimore put on the table. The Ravens were more aggressive when it mattered most. They paid the premium price without hesitation, and now they get to enjoy one of the best edge rushers in football for years to come while we watch from afar wondering what could have been. But the offseason isn't over yet. There are still significant moves to be made, still opportunities to dramatically improve this roster, still a real chance to turn this season into something special that we'll remember for years. The question that will define everything going forward is whether the Cowboys are going to aggressively seize those opportunities or let them slip away like they did with Crosby. I want to believe they're capable of making the right moves and building a contender. I want to believe the talent is out there to be acquired if you're willing to pay for it. What I desperately need to see now is action, not words, not promises about what they're planning to do, not explanations about why they couldn't get previous deals done, just results. Go sign a playmaker, go trade for an impact player, go do something concrete that makes Cowboys fans genuinely excited about the direction of this franchise. The time for talking about potential and future plans is officially over. Monday is coming fast, and we're about to find out what kind of organization this really is at its core. Now, I want to hear from you because your opinion genuinely matters to me and to this entire community we've built together. Would you have traded both first-round picks for Crosby, knowing that was the price that would get it done? Are you confident the Cowboys are going to make up for this miss with aggressive moves in free agency? Who specifically do you want them to target now that Crosby is officially off the board and in Baltimore? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's have a real conversation about the state of this team and where it goes from here. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because Monday's coverage is going to be absolutely nonstop, and you're not going to want to miss a single second of it. This is the most critical offseason in years, and we're going to get through it together as a community, for better or worse, whatever happens. Let's go, Cowboys.